you already have an idea of why you're coming and you have that goal, then the motivation should be there. But if you expect the motivation to find you, then that might be problematic. It is the land of opportunity, but do come motivated.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Damn It Feels Good to Be an Immigrant, a podcast series started by MPM, my personal mentor, and an online platform for immigrants to help them succeed in Canada. And we have such an amazing panel today. My personal mentor has their personal mentor today. So it's going to be fun. Someone who helped us during our journey while we were making this platform. So I'm more than excited to bring them up. The man of the hour, Marc-André. Marc, how's your day been so far?
So far, so good. Praateek, nice to see you. Chetanya, nice to see you as well. It's a pleasure being here with you. So I look forward to, having a chat today.
Amazing. Likewise. Yeah, definitely. Let's kick it off with a quick round of introduction. I know, Marc, you've worked with uOttawa. You worked as a international market development team, in uOttawa over a decade now. So share a little bit about that. How's your journey been with, kind of interacting back and forth with international markets?
Yeah, so I've been working on the international front for about 6 years now, but I've been around the university since 2002, so almost 20 years. So I'm a proud 3-time grad of the university as well. So I've lived the experience as a student, coming from a small town in Northern Ontario. So not an international immigrant, but 8 hours away. Still, so I had make my way to Ottawa. So I lived the experience as a student, did grad studies as well. And then, I think I was there for so long as a student, they just offered me a job. It's not exactly how it happened, but I started doing national liaison, doing recruitment in Quebec. And when I did my master's in educational counseling, I did some counseling at career services at the university, and then worked at the admissions office, and then somehow found myself working in the international sphere, and been involved in international recruitment since then. So about 6 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Time flies. Yeah.
And you look you're so young, you know what I mean? Like, and you know what? Who's smart in this? Smartness showed by uOttawa. They picked the perfect representative who've been with them through masters, career counseling, being a liaison, and now finally, working as an international market development. And you said, Marc, you've worked with the admission office. How's that been? I'm pretty sure, again, a big stats is, a lot of international students come to. And recently, we heard that in the past few decades, the numbers have risen from 40,000 immigrants coming to Canada to 400,000. And that is crazy. How's your journey been with kind of handling that in the admission office?
Yeah, the numbers are enormous when you do look at the evolution of the number of international students in Canada. When I started at the admissions office, if I'm not mistaken, we had one full-time international specialist, but now I think we have 4. I have 4 colleagues working on international recruitment files. It's skyrocketed at the university as well. We're above 20% international students at the university. It changes the whole dynamic on the admissions front, because it's getting to learn the different curriculums from students from across the world. So it does require a special set of expertise, and it changes a university as well. So it's it brings a different perspective to the university, a different experience to all students as well. It's changed a lot. Absolutely, Praateek. Yeah.
No, I mean the numbers, as Praateek mentioned, and Praateek, I think recently the numbers have even updated. I think it's 500,000 now. Ooh. So it's absolutely the skyrocketed, and it's 50% is the Asian countries, which is amazing. We people love to migrate. Canada is such a welcoming country. So no, it's pretty crazy. And one thing is that we have seen that a lot of people, this is what I've also noticed in past couple of years, that a lot of international students have figured out how to come here, but one thing that they have not figured out is how to sustain here, how to guide their career towards a better future, how to get their field jobs. how to not just work for a warehouse job or like a part-time job. And I'm not saying that's bad. That's good. But if you enjoy it, it's amazing. But if you're genuinely looking forward to a field job, then definitely you need right mentors, right experience, right skill set, right? And so, talking about those kind of things, Mark, I know since a lot of people, and I also met you first time back in India from pre-departure orientation. Amazing stuff. I feel like we should have more of that now that COVID is hopefully gone. But what would you? I remember you were sharing a couple of very key insights, and I would love that you share it today as well. That what would you suggest someone or a student coming right after 12th, 17, 18-year-old, young kid coming abroad, first time, he has no one, right? What would you suggest to him? What kind of skills he should gain? What kind of tasks he should be prepared way before time, before he boards that plane and, lands in this land of opportunities?
Mm-hmm. It's a loaded question, my friends. So let me break it down. So first of all, I also really look forward to going back to India and having the sessions and meeting students and parents and so on. That's one of my favorite parts of the job, is traveling to the different countries and getting to meet the students and helping them plan their transition to Canada and the University of Ottawa in my case. I bet that most people who do this similar kind of job will tell you the same thing, meeting the students abroad and speaking to them about the future opportunities is one of the favorite parts of the job. That being said, when we do meet the students, I think we have a responsibility to speak to them about how to prepare for this transition. So the admission process, that's clear, it's on the website, no issues there. We try to admit, very academically prepared students, very academically strong, because that tells us that academically they'll succeed. But we also look for students who have a certain level of maturity as well, because you'll be away from your family, you'll be away from your friends. In many cases, most of your friends won't travel with you to the same university. It's across the globe. Homesickness is a reality. It happens. So first and foremost, we look for a certain level of maturity. We ask questions on that, in the sense of what kind of responsibilities did you have at home? And do you know how to cook and clean for yourself? Have you thought about your program and future career plans as well? We want to know how far did the students really think about the whole sort of transition. It's one thing to choose a program, but it's something else to think a little further about why they chose the program and what's the end goal, right? It's never too early to start thinking about the end goal. That goal can change. So it's usually not a straight line to achieve that goal. There's going to be some curves in that road. But I always like to hear students speak about how they chose the program, what's their plan, and so on. That to me gives me a sense that the student has done some thinking. They've thought about the choice. They do have a goal in mind, because having that goal in mind can drive a lot of the decisions and can be a great source of motivation, to complete your program and have something to aim for. Absolutely. I hope that sort of answered part of your question.
No, absolutely. Those nailed down, actually. And since you were mentioning that they know how to cook, fun fact, I just moved in with my brother, and it's the first time in last 4 years that I've been eating 3 times a day.
Wow.
Because he's a chef, also.
You need to put that forward. You're eating fantastic meals 3 times a day.
I'm already jealous, man. I'm already jealous. I have a follow-up question for Mark here. Again, and it's amazing. I'm kind of jealous there too. He gets to travel so much, get to be in the culture, understand new people, new perspectives. And Mark, you said, you got the opportunity to, kind of work along with a lot of students who were planning on coming to Canada. I want to know that after, you kind of put that perspective in their mind that, hey, you know what, it's not just studies, it's a lot more than that you have to be prepared for. How was that reaction like? Or maybe in easier words, I would say is, when you ask that question that, hey, what's your future desired state? Did you ever get an answer that you were like, all right, this is good? And again, there's no such thing as ideal mindset, but was there a point where you got a good answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does happen that I do get some good answers. That the students that we usually do meet, I'd say, 85 to 90% of the students, they've thought about their program choice. They have they have a plan, but some students do not, and they're the ones where it sort of stands out. That's where you have to have some deeper conversations on, you need to think about this because this is a big decision. It's an important decision. It's not only it's not a standalone decision. It's a financial decision. It's a family decision.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So you have to consider many factors in order to determine if this is really the right choice for you. So sometimes it evolves in sometimes it can be a difficult discussion. Right. Sometimes the parents are present, and maybe sometimes the parents have done most of the choices, the application, and so on. And so when you do have a conversation with the student, you have some blank stares. To me, that's a red flag. Sometimes hopefully it's because the student is simply shy, but in some cases it's because the student really didn't have a say in the decision. And from my experience, sometimes that's not necessarily good. Is there a typical answer that I'd be looking for, Praateek? No, I think it really 100%. Depends.
Exactly.
It really depends on the student. And when you have that conversation, if the student can clearly verbalize why he made certain decisions and what his end goal is, he might explain it in different ways. But if the student can do that, to me, it's an indicator of possible success. Never guaranteed, but possible success.
And that's exactly, and you nailed it on the head. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear is, you said parents come into perspective. And again, this is me talking from my perspective and how my journey was. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people from India might relate to this one, is a lot of decisions are backed up by our parents. A lot of decisions come from them. And that's why we look confused in those meetings. Is like, all right, and again, you said it, and while you were saying that 85 to 90% of them answer, but that answer is related to just their focus of programs, studies, future jobs. That's it. No one talks about homesickness. No one talks about going to extracurricular jobs or anything off campus. Anything being involved on campus. And this is a big stereotype that I want to break. Is we are taught that get a good job, get good grades, and you'll be all set in life. It's not just that when you move to, North American countries. It's way bigger than that. You have so many more opportunities. We forget that why is this place known as the land of opportunities? It's way beyond just studies, right? And what's your take on that, Chetanya? I would love to know from you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember, talking about studies, I think the very first semester I was all day long in libraries, or I was in Marc-André's office, just showing him my notes. Am I doing right? Am I doing wrong? But I think the very first semester I was just studying all day long, right? And I feel like in my second semester, I was a lot more into volunteer work. I was a lot more into organizing events. That was a drastic change. But to be honest with you, I think I enjoyed my second semester more than the first one. Not to mention my GPA went like this, but I think I was more happier.
No regrets, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, and now that I'm mentioning about my volunteer experience, and I think this I mentioned it to Mark before as well, that my volunteer experience has paid me in the long term much more.
It served you. Yeah.
It has served me much more than my GPA or than my, my studies. This is my own example, right? Whatever kind of jobs I get into, whatever kind of scholarships I got, I think somewhere or the other, they were closely related to the kind of volunteer work that I did, the events that I organized, the budget that I handled, because I had the real experience of handling those things in real life, right? So definitely, I think not just studies, there has to be a balance. And I'm not saying, go all in with and don't study at all. Please study as well. Have a balance, For me,
I think that's the key.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's really help you with your culture shock. That helps you to build friends. It's very important to make friends. I know it's very hard. I have seen people not having friends at all, and then they start missing their old friends. Then they start calling them all day long, and then they're just always on the phone, just calling back to India, which is not good. Because deep down, you also know you have to stay here now. Going back is like 1% of the chance which you don't want to take. Right? So I think volunteer work, absolutely, getting involved on campus.
Extracurricular in
No,
general.
for
And
sure,
I'm pretty sure, Mark, in your experience, when you move to like different countries, go there, you give presentations. I'm 110% sure you bring that into perspective that, hey, you know what? It's not just about your program. It's not just about jobs. There's much more than that. I want to know, how do you get reactions on that? How many follow-up questions do you get on that? Is it comparatively low in terms of like more on programs, less on extracurricular?
I think naturally the main focus is really on the program. When we do these types of presentation at this time, that the students really have specific questions about their program, and they have questions about their parents as well. The focus. So we'll present about extracurriculars, the possible clubs, the sports facilities, all that. Like I like to say, a healthy body is a healthy mind during my presentation, but I think the students aren't focused on that at that point. I think maybe we need to do a better job presenting the value for volunteer experience and co-op if it's offered at a specific university. So paid work internships. So there are a lot of questions. When we bring up co-op, there are questions that usually garner some attention because we talk about financials. So I think that's just natural. But when it comes to volunteer work, there are no financials to that. So I think students at first, and parents especially, have a hard time being able to quantify or seeing the return on investment for volunteer work. That being said, now I can give specific examples, like Chetanya's example, of very concrete examples of a student who got very involved and how that paid dividends for him, right? So there are other examples related to what Chetanya experienced, but absolutely. I think the main focus, I think it's just natural. It's the program, but we do talk about the other extracurriculars and the importance. It's just hard to sell it because there's no ROI.
And a lot of people actually talk about how volunteer work is time taking, and it's not actually giving them back anything because they're not actually seeing the direct outcome of it, the direct response, which is fine. But at the end, I think this is another thing that we have to push more, that please get involved on campus, get involved with other people, different cultures, because you learn so many transferable skills that you eventually use on your job, on your, in your career. In fact, now that we're talking about, students being here now, we're done with people who have already known. Now students are here. Say a student is already here. What should they be focusing on, Mark, on the first 1 to 3 months to get more comfortable with the culture? Because for sure, like, people gonna go through the culture shock for sure. Absolutely. The honeymoon period is gonna go down for sure, right? But today we're gonna share some little bit your insights on how they can handle it better, how they can be prepared to handle that kind of the honeymoon period going down, the culture shock is rising up, the stress is going up. How do you suggest that handling that part?
So the honeymoon phase ends pretty quickly. So when we do our presentations, we talk about the free services that are offered on campus. And so taking advantage of these services, I think, is key. And one of the main ones, and I think this service is available in most universities now, if not all of them, is an international office. So the international office of the different universities or colleges usually have international student mentors, so senior students that can help guide the students. They've gone through the experience themselves. So it's important to reach out to your international student mentor if you're if you're in need of anything, really, right? Use the free services like the mental health services if you feel you have that need. Most faculties will have student mentors as well, and so on. So I think it's just important to reach out to the different services. Next would be get involved. So there's usually a welcome week at every institution, college or university. Get involved, get to know students from your program, from your faculty. Try to build a network. It's not easy, but you're part of it. You're part of a new community now, and you need to get involved to become an active member of your community. So becoming an active member of your community is very important. You can be as active as you want. You can be as active as Chetanya, or you can be slightly less active, but still have those links if ever you need anything, right? One of the recommendations, that I give students during my presentation is in your first classes, when you're sitting down, always take the initiative to introduce yourself to the person to your left, to the person to your right. You might be extremely shy, but this might be so important in the future. You might be sick next week. Who's going to take your notes and share the notes with you? Sure, it might be on the web, but you might miss something very important that was told by the professor. Just doing that, you're taking what, about 5 courses per semester? That's 10 people, 10 people that you can be connected with, right? That you have a direct link. You're living through the same courses. You're living a typical experience. They're probably, or they might not be international students, but they might be living similar experience to yours. So these are just little things. There are a lot more, but I think these are important.
No, yeah, 100%. I think, and they're so important because a lot of us kind of neglect on the part of networking because they forget that it's so important because, and this amazing quote that I heard is your net worth is your net worth.
Yes.
And I didn't realize it until I started doing it. And now that I look back, I'm like, wow, like I kind of blame my first year, my low GPA first year on networking because I was very social. I was on campus. I was, evolving on campus and making more friends. But I was like, now that I look back, I was like, hey, you know what? When the pandemic hit and then you had everyone running back home, all you had to do was get on Zoom calls with, people that you know. And if you had not made those friends, what were you doing? How would you study? You know what I mean? Like, and stuff like that. This is just a small example, of, kind of the power of network and the power of, just being involved on campus. So it's good, it's amazing that we've discussed so far is so wholesome that, hey, you know what, whether, it's just homesickness, being more prepared, having the mentality and mindset that, hey, you know what, it's just not going to be about courses. It's just not going to be about jobs. It's much more than that. The reason why this place, North America is known as the land of opportunities is not jobs, just not programs. It's much more than that. So that's amazing. I want to kind of, go back to the admission office part of your journey, Mark. And, what was your kind of role in that?
I was in charge of special projects. So reevaluating procedures and trying to optimize the processes that were in place there at the admissions office. So I did a little bit of admissions myself to gain some experience and better guide some of the procedures that were in place. That's what I did. Yeah.
Interesting. That's a good point. And I wanted to kind of follow up on that is what are, again, in maybe like 2-3 bullet points here is like, what are some of the green flags and red flags when it comes to admissions? What are some of the do's and don'ts that someone should kind of put that and keep that in mind while they're, filling up the applications for, any Canadian colleges? Just kind of overview.
Yeah, bullet point. Be truthful. Number 1. Number 2, study hard while you're in school. We look at grades. For us, that's a best indicator of success.
Okay.
And number 3, check your emails. Check your emails. I know most institutions, whether colleges or universities, we send out a lot of emails, but do check them. For us, it's still the main way we use to contact officially students. So don't sit and wait. You need to be proactive. You need to check your emails. We will let you know if something's missing, because yeah, that's so important. Red flags. What are some red flags? 3 bullet points there. Holes in the study. So if ever there are holes in your studies, you need to be able to explain why there's a gap there. For us, that's a red flag. That's pretty much it. There's no yeah, that's pretty much it.
When red flag starts when students comes here,
Well, no, not necessarily. Another thing would be, students will try to maximize their chances, so they'll apply to many different universities, right? When we see a student choosing our institution as number 13, it's not a red flag.
Okay.
But it's not as interesting as if a student chooses us in their top 5, right? And I think that's just normal. It's not necessarily, but I put myself in the shoes of the students. I understand, right? You're trying to maximize your chances in getting into universities, so you'll apply to as many institutions as possible. But yeah, that does stand out sometimes. We do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, and you said gap, like that whole, like when you say it's a red flag, how big of a gap is a big of a gap? If that makes sense. Like, is it like 1 year, 2 years is like a red flag?
Yeah, even just 6 months. We want to know what you did during that 6 months. Why did you not apply directly to university? What did you do? Did you study elsewhere?
Yeah.
Did you study for a year or 6 months in a university and you flunked out and you just don't want to tell us? Yeah. So for us, we need to know what you did during that period while you weren't in school.
Awesome. We feel like we can do it and nobody's gonna know. But I feel, yeah, exactly. Because one thing that people don't pay attention to is that whoever is looking at your applications, they have been in your shoes a couple of years back, right? And they have that same mindset that you were having right now. So no, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they see so many files, right? To them, it just jumps out in their eyes. Some of them were former international students as well, so they know. Like you said, they've been in the shoes before. They've done the whole process as well. So
yeah. And just to add on to one point there, I think I would like to mention, when Mark, you were mentioning that you make friends on left and right. One thing that I would like to mention is that, a lot of people have asked me, but I'm very shy and, I'm very awkward, how to handle that awkwardness. What I would say that, and what I always had that in my mind is, whoever I'm talking to in front of me, he's also new. Yeah. He
has no idea who you are.
Exactly. So what worse can happen? He'll say hi and bye. That's it. That's nobody care, right? And eventually, through this, now I can say that I not only know just people or my friends, I also know technicians at Ottawa U by name. They know me by name just because of that, just because I was trying to build network connections, and you never know what can work, what can help you, and what time. So I think those are pretty much we covered actually a lot of big points.
Man, it's such a wholesome talk it has been. Thank you so much, Mark, for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Just kind of sum up, we talked from an ideal mindset of an immigrant coming to Canada, making sure they have that, ideal mindset where it's just not about studies, but also about extracurricular, having that fair balance. Again, very, very important. Now, of course, also about, a couple of admission do's and don'ts, a big green flag for all the viewers who are watching this. Be truthful and study hard. If you have prepared that you want to go to Canada in your freshman or sophomore year of high school, make sure you're studying hard and, showing Canada and Canadian colleges that, hey, you know what, I'm more than eager, I'm more than smart to kind of perform good. And again, there are a lot of different criteria, and of course, some red flags that you heard from Mark, and they were right on, and a couple of things to keep in mind. But again, such an wholesome talk. Maybe any closing comments you have, Chetanya or Mark?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it was amazing call for sure. One thing before we end this amazing podcast, I really don't want to end this, but we have to. One suggestion, Mark, for our immigrant community or an international student, coming like me, 17-year-old or masters, anyone, coming to Canada. And in fact, just to add on to that, this August, it's going to be 5 years I met you.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a long journey. But yeah, so what would be your one suggestion, one light suggestion for an immigrant community who's sitting in India or anywhere in world planning to come to North America? I know it's a trick question.
Yeah, it's not a trick question. It's just a difficult one to answer. I don't think there's just one right answer here, but I think you need to be motivated. You need to be motivated. If the motivation is not already there, you won't necessarily find that here. So if you come motivated, I think everything should fall into place. And I think it just speaks again to what I was saying. So if you already have an idea of why you're coming and you have that goal, then the motivation should be there. But if you expect the motivation to find you, then that might be problematic. It is the land of opportunity, but do come motivated.
That was deep. That I had like flip of 4 years right in front of my eyes right now.
But that was bang on. That was right on. Again, beautifully said, Mark. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. And, I'll end it here for all the ones who are watching. Well, yeah, keep up, keep on, keeping on. For those who are willing to come to Canada, those were some of the tips and tricks. There we go. MPM for immigrants, by immigrants. Mixing up masala with the militant. Shooters on die, but the smile very innocent. Who that is? Big Baba. Foreign shit with the Timberlands. No